Hello friends, welcome to the TechBizSoft. So today topic that we are going to cover is wrapper classes. So first we have to understand what is a wrapper class is and how does it use. So I will show you some examples, okay, in the IntelliJ, then we can understand that concepts, what does means wrapper classes and all. So I'm creating a new class here. It is IntelliJ only. So I'm giving like say example, okay. Now let me create a main method here. Okay, so first of all you have to understand what are the wrapper classes, how does it use, right? So before that, I want to show you, if you want to declare one variable, right, we have a two way. Either I can declare variable like this way, which is called primitive data type, right? So we have primitive data type. So total we have 8 primitive data type: integer, float, character, double. Integer having a 4, right? Byte, short, long. We have covered that in I think second or third video. You can watch it if you do not have idea about it. Okay, so we have a total 8 primitive data type. Second way, we have to declare a variable called integer y equal to say 10, right? We have a two way to do that. Okay, one is like int and second one is like integer only. Why it is giving error here? Let me take that suggestion only. Integer y equal to 10. So int x equal to 10, integer y equal to 10. Both are doing the same kind of things, but having a lot of difference. Okay, here I am doing assign a value int x equal to 10 using a primitive way, and here I am going to assign a value into a by using a wrapper class. So corresponding the data type, Java has given a proper class which is called integer byte. Like for example, if you want to declare a byte here, right? So we have a one way like byte be equal to say like 20. Same thing we can declare like byte be equal to say like 20. Okay, so here it is a let's say it could be z here. So that is a way to create a variable using a primitive type or using a wrapper class. So let's understand what are the use of wrapper classes. So this part we are going to understand that why we are going to use this integer byte, okay, which is in a class, predefined classes of predefined wrapper classes, right? So let's understand the definition once, what the wrapper class does. To wrap primitive into object, right? So we have primitive type and we want to wrap with the object, then we are use wrapper classes, right? So that we can handle the primitive also just like an object. So we know that Java is a pure object-oriented programming, but not fully object-oriented programming, because of that supporting the primitive type. So primitive are not like object. Primitive are not like object. Primitive is just like a kind of a value only, right? Where objects means they may have n number of values like that. Okay, so that you can understand here, wrapper class is only we are using to use primitive in the form of objects. So we can handle primitive also just like an object, right? So how to do it? For that we are using like we have a wrapper classes and we have a different constructor of or argument of it. Like for we have byte class, we have byte method, short, we have like short, we have integer, we have int, long, we have a long, float, we have a, so these are the corresponding data type. With this corresponding data type we have this particular wrapper classes, right? So here we are going to convert primitive to wrapper. Always Java does do it internally, okay, but we have to understand how Java does do it. Okay, so wrapper classes are clear. So we have like total 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, right? So total we have 8 wrapper classes, same like we have 8 primitive data type. So these are the primitive data type. Now let's understand how does Java work on it. Okay, so I'm going to use some methods. What are the method? Let me note down that here. One by one we will cover it. Okay, so here we are using primitive and here we are using integer. So first we are going to see how to convert, like converting primitive to wrapper, right? So what I will do here, I can create one integer object, integer I equal to, and what I can do, I can assign here like x, right? So what it will do, it will convert a string into a integer into a wrapper class, right? And then we can go like this way as well, new integer, and I will pass here like x. Okay, So here also we can do like, because integer is a class, right? We can assign directly value or we can assign directly with the object also, right? Same thing we can do like for byte also. If you want to go with the byte, say I2 equal to, here what I can do, new byte, right? And I can assign the value of the byte, which could be like B here, right? So here it is doing what? Converting X is what? X is type of primitive only. So primitive is going to store into a integer, right? Same like here, byte. We have a like B is a type of what? Primitive, primitive only, right? So primitive is going to convert into a wrapper class. So that's a use of wrapper classes. So here we will use some method of this wrapper class. That method we have to understand, right? So what are the method we have? First method we have, which is called valueOf. Let me put that into a comment. So let me put that into down, okay? So you will understand in a better way. So what method we are going to cover? First method we have a like valueOf, right? Second method we have first one is a valueOf. Second one we have, which is called parse XX. Here x-axis means data type only. I will tell you what is the meaning of it. Parse x capital here and then small x. Parse XX, right? Third we have, which is called xxx value. Okay, that is the third one. And fourth one we have a like toString. So that method we have a like 4 that will use to use in the wrapper. So what is the purpose of it, that we are going to understand. Okay, so first what we are doing here we are converting primitive to wrapper. What it is called? It is called auto boxing, and it is happening automatically also. So that is called auto boxing, right? Auto boxing is one of the important concepts, that what it is doing, converting what? Primitive to wrapper, right? And unboxing is what? Let's say I have like integer y equal to 10, and what I'm doing here I'm creating a one variable like int of say I3 equal to, and what I'm doing here, I'm assigning the y here, right? So what we are doing here this integer means that primitive, right? I3 will store that wrapper class y equal to y, which is having a 10, right? So what it is doing here it is converting, it is called auto unboxing. What is happening here? Converting wrapper to primitive, right? Here we are doing wrapper to primitive. Okay, so what we are doing here we are converting wrapper to primitive. So please understand auto boxing, that is one of the important question for the interview perspective. When it is called auto boxing, when we are converting primitive to wrapper, auto boxing. When we are converting wrapper to primitive, right? Wrapper to primitive, that is called unboxing, auto unboxing, right? Now let's understand the use of these all the methods which I told you, which is having a like, here we have a for right valueOf, parse xx, and like that. So let's say we have a like, first understand the valueOf method. What does it do? So for example, I have one value here, right? Let's say I'm going to create a one integer variable, let's take suggestion, integer say I5 equal to integer dot like valueOf, and I'm passing here suppose 10, right? And let me pass it in single quote. So suppose 10 is what? 10 is nothing like a number which is in single quote, right? So it is giving me error, too many characters on this literal, let me pass this with double quote. Let me take or not? Yeah. So we have to pass in double quote, right? That 10 only. So here we are saying that integer dot value of. So whatever value it is there, right? You can read the value of what does it do. So value of is a one method, right? That return the integer and take the strings, right? So whenever you want to convert a string into an integer, right? Suppose you got a string from somewhere and you want to convert into integer, then we can use the value of operator. So what it will do, it is a string and it will store into a integer here. And if you will display here says out, you will get it. Okay. So system.out.println, right? So what is happening here in the I5? What is there? It is converting a string to integer, right? So here I will get the 5 only, sorry 10 only. So let me write here, converting a string to, here it could be any type, integer type, float type, double type, right? So I can simply write converting a string to wrapper. So whichever wrapper class we have, right, I can use that also. Like for example, I can write here, suppose double, right? Double d equal to, now here what I can do, double dot, so double is a class which is having a method like value of. So if I will write in value of, let's say I will put here like 20. So here 20 is a string, 20 will be in the form of a string, then we can convert into a double. So if you will write here like d, see here d, what will it do here now? If I will run this, say I'm getting here 20.0, because double will also give a value in points. But one thing you have to understand here, can we convert here 10 and 20 are the digits only, right? But if I will write here suppose a string, let's say I am writing here like this, I'm writing here suppose like ABC. ABC is also a string here, right? If I will write here ABC, then what does it do? Will it convert or not? Right? Let me make it D1 here and let me display the D1. Okay. So if I will run this, so you can say I'm getting the exception, right? That ABC cannot be converted into integer. So you have to understand that value of is a method of all the primitive type, right? Integer, double or float, whichever it is, right? It will convert a string to integer, but it will convert only those strings which are in the form of numbers like 10, 20. It will not convert into a primitive type if they are kind of characters like ABC. ABC cannot be converted. Okay, so 10, 20 can be converted. Clear it? So that you have to understand that here it will not work, it will fail, because here they are the characters. So it is happening sometime we do get two things in a double quote, that could be a numeric or that could be a strings. If it is a numeric, a string means characters. Okay, string will be both type. One will be numeric and second will be the characters. So if strings are in the form of numeric, right, that numeric will be converted into a wrapper class using the value of. But if it is in the form of characters, that cannot be converted. Okay, that cannot be converted. So that is a use of value of method. So value of method is simply converting a string into a wrapper, right? So let me write here value of. What does it do? Converting converting a string to primitive, a string to raw, so not primitive, wrapper. Okay, then we do use value of. Next we have like xxx value, right? So what is the use of xxx value, that we are going to understand, right? So xxx value is converting wrapper to primitive, right? Why does it use? Let's to understand that. That is a converting wrapper to primitive. What does it means? Let's going to understand that. Wrapper to primitive. Let's say I have one primitive converting wrapper to primitive. So let's create a one integer class, say like x2 equal to, I'm passing here some values which could be say like suppose 100, something like that. Okay, now what I'm doing here, I'm converting that into a specific type. So what I can use here, I can use here int, right? Int, here I'm taking like suppose x3. What it is doing, x2 dot right? What we have a different type of. So we have one x2 equal to 100, that is a type of primitive. Sorry, that is a type of wrapper only. Now we are going to convert into a primitive. So they are having a different method here in this wrapper class: byte value, int value, short value, what we want. So here integer we have a like byte value or int value. So suppose I want to convert into byte value, right? So we know that this 100 will convert into a byte value. So if you will write this system dot out dot println, and if I will write here x3, right, what does it give? Let's understand now. So if you will run this code, you can say that I am giving, okay, I think that line is giving me error, right? So let me comment this one, because that is not going to convert anyway. Okay, let me comment that one also. So you can see I'm getting here 100, and we know that byte is having a range, right? Let's say I'm giving here 150. 150 is a bigger than the byte range, right? Let's see what will it give here. So it will give me minus 106. So it will rotate actually the values in reverse order, because the range of byte is minus 127 to plus 127, right? Minus 128 to plus 127. If I will give the value the below 127, right, it will take it. Let's say if I will give you like 129, right? If I will give 129, then what will it give? Minus 127, right? So it is starting from that minus 127, if because the range is going to increase. So what we are going to understand here, if you have any wrapper class, right, you can convert that to a specific type. So that time it will become a, so here int is going to store, but it is going to store in the form of byte only. So whenever you are thinking we are going to convert wrapper to primitive, then we have to use byte value or short value. So that's why I've written here xxx value, right? So here xxx means what? It is nothing like a data type only, right? What does that xx means? Data type. It could be byte value, it could be int value, it could be short value, it could be char value, right? It could be any values, right? So for that purpose we will use here this xxx value method, right? Wrapper to primitive. Next we have a like parse xx method. So parse xx, what it is doing here? So it is converting a string to primitive. So whenever you want to convert a string to primitive, then we have to use parse xx. What does it means? Let's to understand once. A string to primitive, right? So let's say now if you're going to use parse, right? Let's say I'm using here one variable, so int of I11, okay, equal to integer dot parse int, okay. Or it could be say like suppose we have some strings on it, right? Let's say I'm passing here some 100, right? So that is also doing the same. We have a string here, and then a string is converted into a primitive, right? So parse int will, sorry, not primitive. So value of is converting what? Converting string to wrapper. So here it could be wrapper only here, right? That could be integer. So value of is converting a string to wrapper. So whenever we have a string to wrapper, when you are converting a string to primitive, then we have to use parse int. So parse int is also doing the same kind of things, but you have to understand here it is converting a string to wrapper, it is converting a string to primitive, right? So we have parse int and value of method, right? So these are the difference: converting a string to wrapper, wrapper to primitive, right? And a string to primitive. Then we have a toString method, right? So what toString method does? It will convert wrapper object to convert. I made a one flowchart as well, so to avoid the confusion, you can see that flowchart also. Converting wrapper to string. So when you want to convert wrapper to string, then we will use toString method. Like for example, I have one wrapper class, right? I have one wrapper class. Let's say I have integer class. Okay, integer say I, say 12 I13 equal to what I'm doing here. Let's it's I13 and I'm assigning some value on it, suppose like 100, right? So I have one integer value. Now what I do, I have to convert into a string on it, right? So what I will do here, I will take one string variable, string str equal to, okay, then what we have to use this integer only. So I dot toString, I dot toString. So what the toString will do, this integer will be converted into a strings. Okay, guys, please remember when you will work on a projects, right, the conversion are very important here. We do it many time, right? We do convert string to integer, right? Convert string to integer, right? Integer, that means string to wrapper, string to primitive, right? Primitive to string, right? So these all kind of conversion we will do it, and to understand that only we are going to understand the wrapper class concepts, right? Now let me show you one diagram here which will present a lot of things to you. So this is the diagram. Let me make it in a full screen. Okay, so we have primitive type, we have a string type, we have a wrapper object. Wrapper object is nothing like a that classes, right? And a string is nothing like a string only. Primitive is simple int float character, right? So we have a method. Suppose I have one wrapper object. Wrapper object means it could be integer float. We have to use xxx value. Here xxx is nothing like a type only. If you want, because it is a primitive only, right? So primitive will be int. So if you want to convert into int, then we have to int value. Float, float value. Double, double value. Now suppose if you want to convert primitive to wrapper, so we have a value of method, right? So value of, what does it do? Whatever primitive we have, suppose int, so int will convert into a like wrapper class, right? Int to integer, float to float, right? So if you want to convert, I think it should be clear what is a primitive and what is a wrapper. So then you can understand value of is converting primitive to wrapper. String, what string is doing? Value of. So value of is converting string to wrapper. ToString is converting wrapper to string, right? Whichever wrapper class we have, if you want to convert into a string, we have to use ToString method. Same like ToString is converting on the string. So whichever string we have, right, to convert from the wrapper to string or primitive to string, we have to use ToString only. But if you want to convert a string to primitive, then we have to use parse xx. So three things we have. For three things we have four different methods. So they work: conversion, string to primitive, primitive to wrapper, wrapper to primitive, wrapper to strings, kind of.